introduce Stephen Busette, UK data center lead at Siemens, to talk about the rise of the AI factory, which can cover a lot of evils. How do you personally define an AI factory, and how for you does it fundamentally differ from storage data centers that of old?
Wow, gosh. If I look back at data centers of old, your purely bricks and mortar environments, built for purpose, defined spaces, particularly when you're talking about white space, gray space, all of the peripheral engineering parts of that. That's the typical data centers. White space, servers in the room, air conditioning coming in, lots of control systems outside of the room, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The AI factory is so different to this. We talk about AI factories in the terms of grid to chip. There's a very, very seamless, very organized, almost like military grade amount of optimization and tooling to enable that space. Increased heat loads, automation, the look at software, how the software interacts with all of this. And all of this is integrated, so where you're talking about the white space and the gray space, it's almost like synonymous, they're becoming one. And this has happened very rapidly, so the growth of the AI compute, high density chip matrix, has totally changed our ethos on how we create these spaces, so they're becoming much more industrialized. And that realization also means that the amount of information handling, compute that needs to happen in this space needs, obviously, the AI to be working that space to provide the evidence and information and motives. So it's a very, very different space, different environment.
Well, you're the UK data center lead at Siemens, so what specific regional trends are you seeing that make us a sort of unique hub for that transition?
Well, it's rather exciting because from 2024 upwards, the government made a very, very massive pledge to the world to say that, the UK will become the AI growth area and creating these growth areas around the country. What I've seen is a massive change in the amount of power, a massive change in the amount of use, the change from, your typical bricks and mortar into a modular environment. So a lot more skid-mounted equipment and a lot more kind of in-depth knowledge with regards to this agentic space. There's much more bite with regards to support in terms of the build of data centers. I remember there being a point in time where they were sort of saying, well, we're going down a certain route and we want to restrict the amount of data centers, the amount of power, right? However, this is now a non-discussion, so you're having more open discussions. So there's a real appetite. I'd say the design in phase, the design and use of different tooling to enable us to reach the right type of measures and designs within that space has changed. We're getting a lot more of a consultative approach as a business, for instance, working with consultants, working with integrators to ensure that this piece called AI can be integrated properly and connectivity can be established. So again, all of our partners and collaborators and the method in which we go to market has completely changed. And it's exciting as well, it's exciting in the data center space. I've talked to a lot of engineers, young engineers, and I say if there's a space that you need to be in, it's got to be in this, yeah?
How about the wide topic of retrofitting? We were talking before about either upgrading existing buildings or upgrading data centers.
Yeah.
What are the challenges around that specifically?
Wow. A lot of the old tech, you could say, the old buildings were not built for this environment, right? A lot of the old tech, you're looking at, data centers that maxed out at 10 megawatt, right? Yeah? So if you're looking at the design of the build of that unit, it has been designed for that purpose. Yeah. That in this space is not sufficient. So there's other means that you'd have to go about in instigating that change. So if you're looking at from a pricing point of view, which is a lot of these investors are looking at, you're looking at change, fundamental change. You're better off breaking the thing down and building it up again.
Okay.
That's my point of view. And I've talked to people who have actually had older sites who have started down a particular pathway and then decided to make those changes. And those fundamental changes increase cost exponentially. So really, you have to look at the way in which you go about designing, building, and building it for purpose for AI. That's the only way.
And we were talking off stage, as it were, about the fundamental different approach to power, which is part and parcel of that. And presumably, I mean, is that a barrier to upgrade?
I wouldn't say that there's a barrier to upgrade the systems. I would say that there is definitely a need to understand where the power is, yeah, and the structures that support this, and organizations, being in touch with the community and the organizations around this, because that's a real fundamental discussion that needs to be had, pre-instigating that kind of move.
So in terms of bang for buck, what's the return on investment argument for shifting to an AI factory rather from old data center?
Oh my gosh, bang for buck. I mean, if you're talking about, do you make your money back within a short space of time? It really depends on the investor, yeah? We're seeing a lot of investment pieces happening at this moment in time. We're seeing, a great deal of movement within the marketplace. Your bang for buck, if you're looking at an industry in which, is providing us with evidence of your bang for buck, this is the one. Yeah, you're looking at a much shorter cycle in terms of that investment coming back and being realized. We're also looking at a technology hike, that 10x technology hike being a real instigator of this bang for buck reality. If you're going to be really, really, really sort of drilling down on the numbers, it's evident.
Yep. How do you balance the massive power requirements? And we touched on power just tangentially earlier. How do you balance those massive requirements associated with AI factories with some very stringent ESG requirements?
Wow. So one of the things that we do particularly, at Siemens, we have been a sort of an optimizer, a decarbonating company for a very, very long period of time. We have, been involved in industrial AI since the 1970s, believe it or not. We have probably about 3,700 filed patents on AI, and that includes, optimization models and software, okay? So when you look at this in real terms, our whole reason for being is to work towards a sustainable environment. And those sustainable environments are working by having the best and the most optimum systems in place. And that doesn't just work from a hardware point of view, it's the way in which it talks with the software, and that you're able to actually get the information back off the back of that. Now, we use AI models within those environments, and on those AI models are constantly streaming information on how to tweak the system to make it run at its most sustainable and most environmentally friendly rates. So,
and this isn't about, forgive the off-the-cuff phrase, bunny hugging. This is about return on investment, is it not?
It is about the return on investment because
and confidence that you've got the power.
Yeah.
Supply.
Absolutely, but if you look at in the past, we spent a lot of time, creating data centers that were just literally power hungry, right?
Yeah.
And what was happening with that power? That power was just, wasn't necessarily being distributed to a community. It wasn't being thought at in terms of, is it renewable? Are there other sources in which we can use this waste power and heat, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Now in the data center world, we are probably at the forefront of introducing new models to ensure that all of those ticks in the boxes as far as sustainability and certainly in terms of efficiency are met. And that gives you your bang for buck, as we said in the initial phase. If you're running an efficient data center, you're running an efficient piece of engineering that can be viewed as any utility in that sense.
And moving on from that, your future is to generate your own power because you ain't going to pull it in from the grid.
Yeah.
And therefore that power is, I'm guessing, more likely to be from an alternative source of energy. It may be wind, biofuel, whatever. I'm not sure that is known widely outside this industry. And I'm not sure it's known widely that there is a huge potential for that to form part of the UK's electricity generating capacity.
That part of it really is a part that excites me.
It's really exciting.
Yeah, because we have a great opportunity within the data center environment to really give that technology over to people.
Yeah.
You know, if you think about, the way in which we go about devising a data center, there's no engineer in this room that will go, I will just throw power at it and it will work, and I'll throw cooling at it and we'll get every water system. Now, we're looking in a space where we're saying, okay, how efficient can we get this? We've been talking about PUE and WE for ages. If there's an industry that actually excites me with regards to how we're going about looking at how efficiency we can get it, is this industry. And all of the tools and the manifestations of new workings, especially with dealing with AI and using AI within these tools, have instigated a change around how we manage and how we control these systems. And that optimization piece is really the real clincher in all of this, because in the past, when we were talking about optimization, it was okay, do we want the pressure 2-bar, 3-bar, all of these things. But we're actually talking about automated regulation. We're talking about agentic tools that actually look and search and work without having that human connection. And that enables for faster responses within that environment, and more predictive technology to enable for any problems to be solved quicker. So that makes it incredibly efficient. And that kind of amount of energy and information is distilled into real-time information that can be read anywhere around the world. So yeah, it's a great space to be.
I'm minded that coming up next, in a couple of minutes' time, we've got a panel discussion on sovereign data and sovereign data centers.
Wow, gosh.
So tee it up. How critical is the physical location of data for you and for your clients?
For the physical location of data?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, sovereign IT is a massive subject again, right? Yeah. Sovereign AI, again, is a massive subject. So it's eternally critical, because we're living in an environment now where we're moving into what I would say is the Internet of Things on a big scale, an industrial scale. The ability to have low latency compute within environments is massive for us right now. The introduction of autonomous cars, I mean, I don't know if you've seen those Waymo cars driving around in London, right? Just gathering up data and information. Those things will be de rigueur. To be able to have compute that's able to take information at any data point in as quick a time as possible is what enables for AI to exist in a faster metrics. And when you start looking at the agentic terminology and going into that realm, it has to be even quicker. So yeah, localized IT is essential to this.
And I've got my eye on the clock. I can't believe we're at 15 minutes already. This is madness.
Yeah.
So we start. Our exam question is the rise of the AI factory. Look forward 5 years. What does that look like in 5 years, or even 10 years? Can you possibly look that far forward?
God, I can't look past 5 minutes
no.
at this stage.
Okay.
Yeah.
But what do you see happening? What do you hope is going to happen? Where does it sit in the UK economy and in critical national infrastructure? Wrap it up.
Gosh. Anyone thinking that AI is going to go tomorrow because something else replaced it, you're crazy, right? AI right now is one of the key, industries that's driving business and driving focus on the UK. I would see that we'd have more agentic tools, more agentic behaviors with regards to IT. Certainly when it comes to things being able to be done in a way that we've not been working at before. Going to the office environment will change completely. A lot of questions I often get asked is, will it replace jobs? Will it replace human beings? To a certain degree, there are manifestations of that. However, I would say those people who are involved with AI, getting to grips with the technology, you're absolutely in the right environment. And I can only see it growing bigger and bigger and bigger and better, allowing us for more freedoms and more expression. So yeah, invested.
And I think we deserve a pat on the back, this industry, because as part of our commitment to community, we are investing in education.
Absolutely.
We're investing in the new workforce coming up to work in our industry and help us take the next leaps forward. So we're actually doing that ourselves, which is worth celebrating, I think.
Yeah, and look, the community piece is essential to all of this. The fact that we're in an industry which produces power, cooling, and all of these things, and there's the way in which we're harnessing that power and we're now giving that power back, says a lot about the industry.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of industries that can actually say that. I won't say that you'd go to your water company and they'll say they're going to give away free water, right? in this industry, we're actually doing things like that. So there's a lot of different agencies that we're working with within the data center industry that we support and solely support for those means.
And we must wrap up. But on this stage earlier, I was talking to Advantage, and they were saying that they're now actively rolling out free heat to a local hospital and to a housing estate in Acton, and unheard of, really, as you say.
100%, and that's only going to increase. The more that we have these conversations with, those key government organisations, the better we can instigate these kind of moves.
Good luck with
that. there's so much technology that we do have within this space that can be helpful like that. And it will be good for the government organisations to be able to speak to us because we're in a good place to be able to help them out. So yeah.
We've had far too short a time to discuss all this, but we've clearly unearthed loads and loads of things we'll be talking about in the next year or three.
Absolutely.
Stephen from Siemens, thank you very much indeed for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Stephen Busette from Siemens, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you.